One of the things about being successful is the more successful you are, the more people want to pull you down, and I was about to find that out. I was running a postgraduate course in this back-end college, and there had been nobody there ready to stop me. I'd invented the course, and for 5 years I had the most wonderful time running this course for students from graduates in art and design from all over the country, and teaching them for a year to teach art in schools and all sorts of places. I sent them on teaching practice to secondary modern schools and comprehensives, to further education colleges, foundation course in art colleges, Eton College. So they had an experience of different types of teaching and the sort of context of education, I think, and not just in art, but in a more general sense. And I think it's probably because I myself went to several different schools, and it gave me a sort of a wider view, more of a helicopter view of what education was about and why, and what was good about it and what was bad and what was ugly. And the course was great because the students who, as I said, came from all over the country, we selected them, they had time to do their own work. In fact, they were expected to do it, given studio space to do it, so they were still being treated as artists, which I thought was absolutely essential for somebody who's going to teach art. And it was very successful, and I enjoyed it. But the problem was that that college I was at was it joined forces with 3 other colleges to create what is now the University of Roehampton, which is a very good university in southwest London. And they brought in a new head of department, and the new head of department was also a practicing artist. I'll come back to that in a minute. But the thing was that my course was the only one that you might call was a selective course, whereas everybody else, all the other art department courses, the other colleges all joined together now, were all recruiting courses. And in fact there's a continuum between, not just in education and everything, between those who recruit for the organisation and those who select for it. And I was at the selection end, and that was to cause a problem. The other thing that was to cause me a problem was the fact that I was being very successful. I was running the company in Nottingham, going up there occasionally. I was also exhibiting, making my own work and exhibiting it successfully, and it was being reviewed in the national press. And also I drove a rather beautiful little pagoda roof Mercedes-Benz, and I was confident. I was in my 30s, you know, good looking, confident, had a swagger. The students liked me, I think. I liked going around to the schools and the colleges and talking to the headmaster of Eton or the headmaster of a headmistress of a school somewhere else in the East End, wherever it was, and they knew me, and I had a very good time, enjoyed it immensely. And so here I was, you know, at the top of my profession, doing things that I enjoyed, and of course to a lot of people that meant that I was a pain in the arse, especially to this guy when he came in, who wanted to be the new kid on the block. And one thing they don't tell you, of course, is that you know, the higher up the greasy pole you get, the more grease is applied, and most of that grease consists of jealousy. 'Twas all over your jealousy, my crime, my sublime repartee. Your heart was afire with irritation for me, but I never thought that could ever be. I gave all my talent to you, but now all's too late. Boo-hoo-hoo. The heartache I cost you, no wonder I lost you. 'Twas all over your jealousy. Well, I was called to something that wasn't called an interview at all. In fact, it was called a proposition. I was rung up on Friday afternoon by the head of department secretary, and his deputy was this chap Ron, you remember, Ron Grint, who was the one who talked about Larry who could never marry and so on. and he was still hanging around. He got himself the job of his deputy, his sort of sidekick. And they were a terrible pair, these two. Anyway, they would ring me up Friday afternoon in the office and ask me to come over for a proposition, a meeting for a proposition. So here I come, and I come in. And the head of department's name is Kevin. I'll call him Kevin. Not his real name. Ron's not his real name either, but anyway, there we go. Afternoon, Kevin. Ron's here. Thought you wouldn't mind. An old colleague of yours, and to provide another perspective. Propositional perspective. Scowl from Ron. Smirk from Kevin. Both smell of booze. Ron looks particularly glassy and red in the face, even for him. I'll come to the point, Vaughan. How do you see the future of the postgraduate art teachers course you run? Well, it's very good. It's popular. It's about 6 applicants for every place, and you know, some good candidates this morning. I was interviewing them, and they get jobs when they leave. You know, that's the main thing. Ron interjects. It's not what the government wants. More teachers of art. They have enough of them already. Kevin's beady black eyes scan me for a response. Ron feigns sorrow while basking in Kevin's protection as his recently ennobled Deputy Head of Department of Art. Well, I'm very surprised to hear this, Kevin. The course has been running since. I introduced the idea in 1975 and it's now 1983. We must challenge it. He didn't introduce it either. I ignore Ron the drunken liar and carry on. But why can't we challenge it? Kevin looks at me. I'm not challenging it, Vaughan. You are challenging me. You're the challenging one round here. Well, I'll challenge it then, if you brief me. Suddenly Kevin stands up and places himself in front of Ron, who remains slouched in his chair. What I mean to say, Vaughan, is that you challenge me at every turn. I'm not putting up with it anymore. I am the head of Department of Art. I am a committed and well-known painter. I am committed community artist. I am sick and tired, quite frankly, of your obstructive and Socratic arguments with me. I am sick of you challenging me. In what way, Kevin? Can you give me an example? You know in what way. Turning off the postgraduates from community art. But I didn't. They thought for themselves, Kevin. And they said so. Anyway, Kevin, you had it in for me since you arrived a couple of years ago. Aided by him. He hides behind you literally at the moment. And he didn't invent the postgraduate course. I did, and I've got the paper trail to prove it. I cast my eyes away from looking up at Kevin and crane my neck towards his stooge so coolly as I can. But my heart is pounding. I feel as though I'm about to throw up. You stirred up the postgraduates against me, Vaughan, after that lecture, which I asked you to give on your own work to the whole department, when you had that one-man show at the Arnolfini Gallery, which I gave you the whole week off to prepare for. The last part is yelled. The gloves are now off. Kevin, the lecture you asked me to give was a set-up, because at the end, after the questions, you stood up and said that photography is not art. That is to say, my art. And it would have no place in your new department, which should now concentrate on community art. But community art turns out to be commissions you have obtained for murals for hospitals, which you have designed and which you then get the undergraduates to make. You've turned this department into a workshop for yourself. The postgraduates who are training to be professional art teachers and lecturers just won't have it. So that frustrated you. Kevin is now also red in the face. I feel I am as well, even though I'm the only one here who hasn't been drinking. You stirred up the postgraduates against me. I know I've done it myself in the past, it's easy, and now you've done it again. I've done nothing of the sort. When did I do this, Kevin? Ron now feels emboldened enough to join in. Up he staggers to emerge from behind his master, thick with drink. Ron, when Kevin outlined his plans for the department after generously giving you the time off for an exhibition installation and then a lecture on it here, I have reason to believe you got some of the students, maybe not all of them, postgraduates, I don't know, but that's beside the point. You got them to stick photocopies of your reviews from the exhibition all over his office door. Kevin, he was too polite to say anything about such real sheer effrontery. Sorry. I did not get wrong, even though they were good reviews. Did you read any? The Sunday Times, The Observer, the... Bon, you're trying to show up Kevin, who is a well-known cunt. Kevin spins round at Ron and then back at me. He is livid. Will he hit me? If he does, I am ready and he is drunk. Ron, just sit down. This interview is now over, Vaughan. For the time being, Vaughan, get out. Interview? Get out. As I close the door, he shouts superfluously, I'll get you, you fucking bastard. Well, that was going to be the end of my course and the end of my job. And I didn't know where I'd find such a good job. Where I'd get money to pay my mortgage and all the rest of it. I was shocked. And then I had an idea. I thought, I need to kick over the traces and start again somewhere that's exciting, somewhere different. America.